At home, there are several different ways that you can use lighting to enhance your videos. We're going to look at some basics that you should bear in mind every time you record, and then some more interesting effects that you can do to be creative with it as well. Starting with the basics. To ensure that you're easily seen on the camera, you need plenty of what's known as face light on your face. If you think about it, if you watch any vlogs on YouTube or perhaps Instagram or TikTok, whichever platform you use, you'll see that a lot of the time they're lit uniformly with face light. A lot of them will use a simple ring light with their camera, and some of them will perhaps use some more sophisticated setups. Now, what this means is that you don't necessarily have to go out and spend lots of money. I'm not advocating that at all. You can create similar effects at home really easily. For instance, I'm sat in front of a large window that lets in a lot of natural daylight. But if you don't have a large window or you're trying to record at night, you can use a desk lamp. And as long as the light is directly pointing at your face, that's all we need to do. It means that you'll be lit nicely and uniformly. In a theatrical setting, you can change the light far more easily with either an intelligent fixture, such as an LED bar, or more traditionally, using something like a gel. Now, what a gel is just a filter that you put in front of the source of the light to change the colour. And you can go online and buy some of this if you want. And if you don't want, that's also fine. Alternatively, you can go and buy a bunch of Quality Street and use the wrappers from that to create a light filter. And it's a nice excuse to have a load of chocolate as well. I'm quite lucky that at home I have a load of Philips Hue bulbs. And what this does is means that I can control any light from my phone and also change its colour as well, which is great. But it is quite expensive, and there are some far cheaper LED lamps out there which come with a little remote that can offer you a selection of colours as well. You may even have LED tape at home. It's fantastic if you do. If you don't, no worries. Some of it's expensive, some of it isn't. It's up to you how you want to do things. Another way you can change the light in your room is by putting a blank colour onto a screen. And this creates a slightly different effect again, but can still look quite effective. Another thing to think about is where your light is coming from. You can see that if I change where I'm sat in relation to my light source, that it changes how the light feels, and some of my face will go into shadow. You can even see that as I move the light behind my head, it creates a silhouette. Now, this can create a different kind of effect to what you're anticipating. It can be quite mysterious, or it can even be sinister depending on your camera angle. Think sensibly about when you're changing your light angles, because it can create some unintended effects as well. Going back to our silhouette, it looks quite sinister like this, and you can't really see my facial features all that well. So to counteract this, I'd probably put a little bit of face light in to just lift it slightly and mean that I can still be seen. However, if I change the colour of my backlight, you can see that this creates a different effect again, and can be quite cool or not, depending on what you're trying to get at. I would definitely suggest that for your face light, you want it to be in a pale colour, so something that's subtly warm or cold, because if you put a strong colour on your face, it can have different effects and perhaps not what you were intending to get at either. Another thing to think about is, where is your piece based? Are you inside or outside? If you think about it, how does the light quality change from morning compared to midday to sunset to even nighttime? And how would those colours translate into how you're trying to create an effect? You can also use lighting to set a time period, whether that's modern day, which follows a lot of the principles we've already talked about, or historically, where if you think about medieval times, you'd either have natural daylight or fireplaces and candles lighting you, which would create a different effect again. And if you're thinking about the future, you can be far more creative with what you're doing, because nobody knows what that's going to look like yet. What this is a gobo. It's a thin metal disc that has a design punched into it, and how it works is a bit like shadow puppets. It's put in front of a light source, and that then casts a shadow of the design on whatever surface that you happen to be using. Now, the likelihoods of you having a gobo at home or something that can even produce a gobo's light is quite small. What you can do is use household items to interrupt where the light is going. So you can place different objects in front of your light so that it can isolate an area, or perhaps drape a lace shirt in front of a lamp so you get an odd pattern through it. What this does is create texture, which you see in reality all the time. Think about if you were sat underneath a tree on a sunny day, and you could see the dappled effect that the tree branches cast upon the ground. Another thing to think about is incidental lighting. Now, what this is lighting that is in your shot, but isn't lighting you. Now, this could be something like a group of candles, or a string of fairy lights to create stars. With all this said, it is quite easy to overdo lighting, and a lot of the time, less is probably more. But no matter what you do, there's no right or wrong answer. It's completely and utterly subjective, and the only way you'll get any good at this is by experimenting and seeing what you like and what you don't.